Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest. The year was 1989. It was June, and I was living in Surrey, British Columbia, with my sister, and we get a phone call. Our grandfather, Grandpa Jack Lukes, had succumbed to his cancer. We come up for the funeral, and we all return back to our homes. We're heading to Christmas. Beginning of December, my brother Tim travels from Powell River up to Vernon, where our mom, 3 little ones, and her other sister were living. I was living in Powell River at this time, and I had said I could not make it to Vernon for Christmas. I gave all the gifts that were to be delivered to Vernon to my brother so he could haul them up there. Our Nana, now a widow after 52 years of marriage, went to Vernon to celebrate with her daughter, my mom. I was great. I had a store going. I was making some pretty good money in the store, but it was all being put back into the business, like you're supposed to do when you first open the doors. Well, the morning of December 23rd, a nudge was pushing me. All night long, I was waking up in sweats. Something was telling me I needed to go home for Christmas. I needed to be with my mom and my Nana. We'd always been close, and this was the first year for my Nana without my grandpa. And I gotta admit, she took all of the baking up there to Vernon with her and didn't leave anything behind here for us. I had $15 to my name, unless I was willing to take money from the business, which I wasn't doing. I wasn't jeopardizing the business because my mom and my Nana would have kicked my butt because they knew what having that business meant to me. But something was telling me I had to go up there for Christmas. So with $15 in my pocket, at 8:15 on the morning of December 23rd, and it had snowed that night, I walk from the Harvey Apartments on Harvey, where I was living with my brother Tim at the time and his lady, down to Marine Avenue, and I put my thumb out. I missed the 9:30 ferry by 5 minutes. But I'm in Sultry Bay. 4 rides it took me to get there. But I had $50 in my pocket because one of those rides gave me some money to help me on my way. Somebody who knew the family. People helping. So I hang out in Sultry Bay thinking, am I really doing the right thing here? Like, yes, I want to be with Mom, but it's cold out here, and I know if I get to the Lower Mainland and I'm stranded, a quick phone call to my sister. She'll come from Surrey to pick me up no matter where I am. She always has. Well, I get on that 11:30 ferry, and I'm hitchhiking the peninsula. Nobody on the ferry would give me a ride. But this old guy in Earl's Cove was just there. I have no idea to this day why he was in Earl's Cove. But I get off the ferry and I'm hitchhiking, and nobody from the ferry would stop and pick me up. This old guy comes up and says to me, "Where are you trying to get to, young man?" And I said, "Well, I'm going all the way to Vernon to spend Christmas with my mom." And he said, "I'll take you to Langdale." And he drives me to Langdale. Get on that ferry. Of course, I don't have the money to take Greyhound up to Vernon. Nobody even knew I was heading to Vernon. Except for my brother Tim, because he was telling me I was crazy when I told him what I was going to do. But that urge was there. Something was telling me I had to go to Vernon for Christmas. I had to be there. Right off the Horseshoe Bay Ferry, his family gives me a ride to Surrey. Highway 101 and 104. They dropped me off. Now I could walk into Surrey and I could phone my sister. She'd come get me and I could get nice and warm. But she'd also talk me out of going. So I don't phone her. I get to Chilliwack, but it takes me until midnight on the 23rd. That's right. Finally, at midnight, I'm at a Husky station in Chilliwack. Frozen to the bone. But that urge was still there. Something was propelling me, telling me I had to be there for Christmas. Girl, it's my nana's firstborn as a widow. And she moves her favorite grandson there, right? Well, nobody's giving me a ride or anything. This family pulls in a station wagon. Oh, and by this time I'm down to $10, by the way, because somebody needed gas at that gas station and I filled their tank. Because of my money, I only left, however, with $15, right? Well, this family comes in and I ask them where they're heading. And they're heading to Kelowna, but they don't have room for me. That's fine. But then they buy me dinner. And you know, Husky meals are pretty darn good at those Husky restaurants. Well, it's snowing. Miserable out. But I get to Hope at 4 in the morning on December 24th. People just aren't stopping. I've hitchhiked my whole life. And this is the first time I've ever had difficulties. Doesn't make sense to me because I'm being told that I need to get to Vernon, but somebody's not wanting to let me get there. This is not right. But in Hope, I find a nice place and I get warm. If you go into Hope, you'll see where the Visitors Info Center is. Well, right next to it, there used to be a fake mine set up. And there was a shelter in there, and I curled up and went to sleep in there. Our CMP officer caught me in there and laughed at me. Told me I shouldn't be hitchhiking, the weather's miserable, the highways are going to be closed and everything. And sure enough, Coquihalla Highway, closed. Accident at toll booth. Trans-Canada Highway, which really wouldn't take me to where I wanted to go anyways, was also closed. Hope, Princeton, no chance. The roads are all closed. But so I'm hanging out in Hope thinking to myself, do I really want to turn around and try to get back to Powell River for Christmas? Or into Surrey where I know Joy will have dinner for me and everything and I can be nice and warm? And yes, I started to hitchhike back. And nobody's picking me up. But then I hear the Coquihala's open. So quickly, boom, I reverse and I'm heading to Vernon. That urge is there. It's pushing me forward. I'm needed in Vernon. That's the bottom line. I'm told I should be in Vernon. This voice from out there, and to this day, I think it was my grandpa saying, you need to go to Vernon, Chris. 2 o'clock, the morning of December 25th, I finally arrive in Vernon. This person picked me up just on this side of the floating bridge in Kelowna and drove. They were only going across the bridge into Kelowna, but they drove me all the way to Vernon. People helping. They dropped me off by the hospital and they turn around. And before I can even say thank you to them, they vanished. Do I believe in angels? Yeah. And do I think it might have been an angel sent from up above driving that car? Yeah. And the smell in the car kind of reminded me of somebody. I'm peeking through the window. I've told Mom I can't make it. Nobody expects me in Vernon. But I'm peeking through that window. My sister May and my mom are sitting at the table talking. My Nana's over there. May spots me, but before she can say anything, I go like this. And she keeps her mouth shut. And I open the door, and I walk in, and I yell, Merry Christmas. I yelled it so loud that the little ones all woke up. And Mom turns around and goes, well, I won't use her language because, well, there are words I don't use, but we'll say, like, holy, what are you doing here? To which I replied, well, I needed to be here. Something told me I had to be here. That was our last Christmas with our mom. She passed away 10 months later. And to this day, I believe somehow somebody up there knew that I needed to be there because we were that close. Today, I went to the Gourmet Canton and had Chinese dinner. And my fortune cookie I got read, following inner promptings brings quiet accomplishment. I believe this was a message from my mom saying to me, carry on. Believe in what you're doing. Because not long ago, if I hadn't listened to that prompting telling me, get to Vernon, spend Christmas with your mom and your nana, I wouldn't have had that memory of that last Christmas. Because the year before, Christmas wasn't that good. But that year, it was magical. The trip back went like that. I had a ride. Boom! Yes, I hitchhiked back too, even though Mom offered to pay my way. I got to Surrey, went and spent New Year's with Joy. I'm not sure it was her best New Year's ever, but it was mine. There are times when I look back on those days, and if I had to follow that urge, those memories of my mom wouldn't be there. I miss her to this day, and I'm grateful for that urge that I followed. I'm glad I listened to it. And you never know what listening to those urges might bring you. So if you get an urge, something that is telling you to do something, don't just ignore it. But maybe weigh the odds, which isn't what I did. I just laughed with $15 in my pocket in a snowstorm. But think of what the end result could be if you listen to